You think you're saving fuel and saving your car by sitting parked with the engine off, just enjoying the radio or charging your phone in accessory mode. You think you're beating the system. But here is the cold, hard truth the dealerships will never tell you. That innocent little habit is quietly killing your vehicle's most expensive electrical components, setting you up for a sudden $4,000 repair bill, and draining your main battery system by up to 40% every single time you do it. We see it in the shop every single week. A car gets towed in, completely dead, or throwing a Christmas tree of terrifying warning lights on the dash. The owners is always baffled. They tell me, "Ben, I didn't even have the engine running. I was just sitting in the parking lot waiting for my kid, listening to a podcast and running a dash cam." They think because the engine isn't burning gas, no harm is being done. They think the accessy mode on that ignition switch is a safe haven. The service advisors at the dealership, they love these customers. They won't warn you about this. They'll just wait for you to destroy the system, tow it in, and then they'll hand you a massive bill for a total system reset or a completely fried auxiliary power unit. They want you to keep doing exactly what you're doing because your ignorance is their steady paycheck. But I'm tired of seeing good people get ripped off by basic habits that nobody ever bothered to explain to them. Let's break down the actual physics of what's happening under the hood, because the manufacturers intentionally hide this behind confusing jargon. Think of your car's electrical system like a household plumbing setup. Your main high-voltage system, or the alternator, is the massive water tower supplying constant pressure. Your car's 12-volt auxiliary battery, the little one hidden in the trunk or under the bench, is just a small household bucket when you are driving normally or when the vehicle is fully booted up in its proper operational mode. The water tower keeps that bucket constantly filled to the brim. The bucket never runs dry because the pressure from the tower is immense and continuous. But the moment you click that ignition button into accessory mode without fully starting the vehicle, you effectively shut off the valve from the water tower. You isolate that little bucket. Now, you start turning on the radio. You plug in your massive smartphone charger. Your high-definition dashcams start recording. Maybe you even leave the blower motor running on low to get a little bit of airflow through the vents. Every single one of those accessories is poking a hole in the bottom of that small bucket. The water level starts plummeting. And because you aren't in the full operational mode, there is absolutely zero water coming back in to replenish it. Here is where the real damage happens, and where the system's bad habits catch up to you. In modern vehicles, especially highly advanced eco-friendly platforms and hybrids, that small 12-volt battery doesn't just crank an engine. It powers the computers. It boots up the main electronic control units, or ECUs. When you drain that small battery down past a critical threshold, say below 11.5 volts, the computers don't just gracefully turn off like a laptop. They start starving for voltage. They lose their memory positioning. They forget their calibrated baselines. The ECU essentially learns bad habits under low voltage, scrambling its own programming code. Suddenly, you go to start the vehicle, and instead of a smooth startup, the dashboard lights flash violently. The relays under the hood start clicking like a machine gun. The main hybrid system, or the electronic powertrain, detects a massive voltage drop and panics. It assumes there has been a catastrophic short circuit in the high voltage lines, so it opens the main safety contactors and locks you out completely. The vehicle goes totally bricked. It won't go into ready mode. It won't crank. It won't do anything except sit there like a very expensive, silent paperweight. I had a guy bring in a pristine, late-model commuter car just last Tuesday. He was an Uber driver who spent about 45 minutes between shifts sitting in airport parking lots. To save pennies on fuel, he would shut the vehicle down, click it into accessory mode, and plug in 2 phones and a tablet while watching videos on his dashboard screen. He did this every single day. Within 3 months, his vehicle started throwing random hybrid system malfunction and check engine warnings. The dealership told him he needed a whole new inverter assembly and an auxiliary control module. Thousands of dollars. He came to my shop sweating bullets, completely panicked. When I hooked up my diagnostic scanner, I didn't look at the big components. I went straight to the data logs for the low voltage system. The history report looked like a heart attack. The voltage graph showed a brutal, daily roller coaster ride, dipping down into the single digits every afternoon while he sat parked. The fix wasn't a multi-$1,000 inverter. The fix was resetting the scrambled computer modules, replacing a deeply degraded auxiliary battery that had been cycled to death, and teaching him the one golden rule of parking that the manufacturer left out of the owner's manual. Because here is the great irony of the modern automobile. Trying to save a few drops of fuel by sitting in accessory mode actually causes accelerated wear on your electrical system that costs 10 times more than the fuel you think you're saving. We have tracked vehicles in the shop that undergo this daily accessory abuse, and their auxiliary battery lifespans are cut short by up to 60%. Instead of lasting 5 or 6 years, these specialized batteries are dying in less than 18 months. And these aren't the cheap $50 batteries from 30 years ago. These are advanced absorbent glass mat or specialized sealed units that cost hundreds of dollars just for the part alone. If you are doing this occasionally, say, you're waiting 5 minutes for someone to run into a dry cleaner. It isn't a big deal. The bucket drains a little bit, you start the car, and it fills back up. No harm, no foul. But if this is your daily routine, if you are a delivery driver, a parent waiting in long school pickup lines, a car camper who likes to sleep in the back with the radio playing, or someone who loves to sit in the driveway listening to the end of a sports game, you are actively destroying your vehicle's brain. You are forcing the computers to operate in a low-voltage twilight zone where data corruption happens, where warning lights are triggered falsely, and where the main power contacts can eventually weld themselves shut or lock you out of sheer self-preservation. So, how do you avoid this? How do you sit in your vehicle for hours on end, running the air conditioning, blasting the radio, charging all your devices, and running your dash cams without ever draining that crucial battery, without burning excessive amounts of fuel, and without risking a massive towing and repair bill? The solution is incredibly simple, but it requires you to completely rewire how you think about idling your modern vehicle. There is a specific, correct sequence to put your vehicle into a safe, sustainable parked state, a hidden sweet spot that keeps the water tower valve wide open while using almost zero fuel. I'm going to show you the exact step-by-step method to configure your vehicle correctly so you can camp, wait, or relax inside it for hours with absolute peace of mind. But first, you need to understand the absolute #1 mistake everyone makes the moment they put the car in park. Here's the fix most dealers won't mention because it requires zero tools, costs exactly $0, and completely eliminates the risk of stranding yourself. The secret isn't some aftermarket gadget or an expensive battery upgrade. The fix is simply changing the mode of your vehicle so that the engineering works for you instead of against you. The #1 mistake everyone makes the moment they pull into a spot and intend to wait is turning the car off completely or dropping it down into accessy mode. Your brain is wired to think that turning the engine off stops wear and tear. But in a modern hybrid or smart alternator vehicle, you have to stop thinking about the combustion engine as the heart of the car. The heart is the electronics. When you want to sit parked for 20 minutes, 45 minutes, or even a couple of hours while camping, here is the exact step-by-step sequence you must follow. First, keep your foot firmly on the brake pedal. Do not let go of it. Second, leave the gear selector in park. Third, instead of pressing the power button once to shut things down, or pressing it without the brake to enter accessory mode, you leave the vehicle fully turned on. You make absolutely sure that the dashboard displays that glowing green word, ready. When your vehicle is in ready mode, it doesn't matter if you are sitting still for 3 hours. The vehicle's onboard computer closes the high voltage relays. It connects that massive, powerful hybrid traction battery pack directly to the small 12-volt battery through a component called a DC to DC converter. Remember our plumbing analogy from earlier? By keeping the vehicle in ready mode, you keep the valve to the massive water tower wide open. Every single accessory you turn on, the radio, the phone chargers, the dash cams, the seat heaters, even the full cabin climate control air conditioning, is no longer drawing power from that tiny, fragile 12-volt bucket. Instead, they are feeding directly off the massive high-voltage reservoir. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ben, if I leave the car fully on, isn't the engine going to just sit there idling, burning gas, and polluting the air? That is the beauty of the system that the marketing teams never bother to explain clearly to the public. When you are parked in ready mode, the internal combustion engine will shut completely off. The car will sit in absolute, eerie silence. You can blast the air conditioning to stay cool on a hot summer afternoon, and the compressor runs entirely on electricity drawn from the high-voltage pack. The engine stays dead silent. Only when the main high-voltage battery pack drops below a specific state of charge threshold, usually around 40%, will the onboard computer automatically wake the gasoline engine up. The engine will fire up smoothly, run at a highly efficient RPM for about 2 minutes, just to spin the generator and top the main battery back up, and then it will shut itself right back off. Over the course of a full hour of sitting parked with the air conditioning running, the phone charging, and the radio playing, the engine might only run for a grand total of 4 to 6 minutes. You burn a fraction of a gallon of fuel. Your small 12-volt battery stays perfectly protected at a constant, healthy 14 volts. And your electronics never experience a single second of low-voltage starvation. Let me give you a real-world example of how understanding this changes everything. I had a customer named Sarah who owned a standard commuter hybrid. She was an avid car camper who loved spending weekends out at state parks, sleeping in the back of her vehicle. The first few trips she took, she did what she thought was the responsible thing. She parked, shut the car off, and turned it to accessory mode so she could listen to podcasts and keep her phone charging overnight on her third trip. Deep in the woods with no cell service, she woke up to a completely bricked car. The 12-volt battery was so depleted it couldn't even trigger the small electronic relay to boot the car up. She had to pay a massive $300 recovery fee to get a tow truck out into the campsite just to give her a simple jump start. She brought the car to my shop afterward, terrified that her hybrid system was failing. I tested the battery, cleared out the low-voltage error codes from the computer's memory, and sat her down to explain this exact fix. I told her, "Next time you camp, leave the car in ready mode. Turn the headlights from auto to off, so you don't blind the campsite. Set your climate control to a comfortable 72 degrees, and just lock the doors from the inside." She was skeptical. She thought she'd wake up to an empty gas tank, but she trusted me and tried it on her next weekend trip. She spent a full 8 hours sleeping in the vehicle with the climate control keeping her perfectly cool. The engine woke up periodically for a couple of minutes to recharge the system and then went back to sleep. When she checked her fuel gauge the next morning, the needle had barely moved. She used less than a third of a gallon of regular gas for an entire night of absolute comfort, and her car started up perfectly without a single warning light. But before you go run out and try this, you must understand a few critical warnings and common misconceptions, because doing this wrong can still land you in a world of trouble. The biggest mistake people make when attempting to leave their vehicle in ready mode while parked is failing to understand their environment. If you are parked outside in an open parking lot, a campsite, or a driveway, this method is 100% safe, but you must never, under any circumstances, leave a vehicle in ready mode inside a closed, attached residential garage, even though the car starts off in silent electric mode. That gasoline engine will eventually fire up to recharge the battery pack. If you are sleeping inside the car, or inside the house attached to that closed garage, the colorless, odorless carbon monoxide building up in that tight space can be fatal within minutes. Always ensure the tailpipe has clear, open ventilation to the outdoor air. The second trap owners fall into is the shift to neutral myth. Some drivers think that shifting the transmission into neutral while sitting parked is a good way to relax the mechanical components. This is a massive trap on modern vehicles. When the vehicle is in neutral, the onboard computer intentionally disables the generator system and refuses to start the gasoline engine to charge the high-voltage battery. If you sit in neutral with the accessories running, you will completely drain the main high-voltage traction pack. And if you drain that main pack down to absolute zero, a standard jump start won't save you. You'll be looking at a flatbed tow to a specialist who has to use a dedicated industrial high-voltage charger to bring the car back to life. Always leave the selector firmly in park. Lastly, make sure your cooling vents are clear. Many vehicles have a small air intake grill located under the rear seats or along the side panels of the cabin. This vent feeds cabin air directly to the high-voltage battery pack to keep it cool while it's working. If you are camping or waiting in the car and you pile blankets, luggage, or coats over that intake grill, the battery pack will overheat while you are sitting there parked. The computer will detect the temperature spike, throw a safety fault code, and shut the entire system down to prevent a fire. Keep that vent completely unobstructed so the system can breathe. Now that you know how to safely sit in your vehicle for hours without destroying your electronics or killing your battery, you're ahead of 90% of the drivers on the road. But there is one more hidden trap built into modern vehicles. A sneaky feature designed by the manufacturers that will completely bypass this fix and shut your car down anyway if you leave it alone for too long. That sneaky feature I'm talking about is the automatic engine shutdown timer. Most manufacturers build a stealthy software countdown into the system. If the car sits in ready mode and detects zero driver input, meaning you haven't touched the brake pedal, shifted gears, or pressed a steering wheel button for anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, it assumes you accidentally walked away with the key fob. To comply with modern safety standards, the computer will automatically shut the entire vehicle down without your permission. If you are sleeping in the back or deep into a movie, you will suddenly drop right back into that low-voltage danger zone as your accessories keep running while the main system goes dark. The secret trick to outsmarting this factory programming is simple. Every 30 minutes, just give the brake pedal a quick tap or cycle the climate control temperature up or down by 1 degree. That simple input resets the internal countdown clock to 0, signaling the computer that a human is still in command. Keeping your power grid wide awake and locked down safely. By understanding these software quirks and implementing the ready mode fix as a permanent habit, you aren't just saving yourself from an unexpected towing bill today. You are completely altering the long-term longevity curve of your entire vehicle. First and foremost, let's talk about what your wallet gains over the next 5 to 10 years. By keeping that 12-volt auxiliary battery consistently sorted by the high-voltage system, you stop the brutal microcycling process that causes premature plate sulfation, the crystalline buildup that chokes out a battery's ability to hold a charge. Instead of coughing up $300 to $400 for a specialized auxiliary battery every 18 months, you can easily stretch that exact same battery's lifespan out past the 7 or 8 year mark. Furthermore, you are saving your main hybrid traction pack or high-efficiency electrical system from localized thermal stress. When you constantly jump-start a dead car or force a deeply depleted low-voltage system to suddenly charge from zero under high resistance, you create massive amperage spikes. Those spikes generate intense heat inside the charging circuits and inverter modules. Heat is the ultimate silent executioner of automotive electronics. Keeping the voltage flat, smooth, and stable means your primary power electronics run vastly cooler, effectively adding tens of thousands of miles of trouble-free operation to the most expensive components under your hood. To maximize these long-term benefits and ensure you truly never get caught off guard, there are a few quick, complementary habits you should integrate into your routine. I call them the shop floor inspections, and they require no tools other than your own eyes. First, make it a habit to visually inspect your auxiliary battery terminals at least twice a year. Because these batteries are often tucked away in hidden compartments like the trunk, under the rear seat, or inside a side panel in the cargo area, owners completely forget they exist until they fail. Condensation builds up in these enclosed spaces, leading to a fuzzy, white, or bluish copper sulfate corrosion on the battery posts. That crusty buildup acts like an electrical insulator. You might have a perfectly healthy battery, but if that corrosion blocks the flow of current, your vehicle's computers will still starve for voltage and throw error codes. If you see any buildup, clean it off with a stiff nylon brush and a simple mixture of warm water and baking soda. then seal it with a light coat of terminal protection spray. Second, pay close attention to your vehicle's smart charging indicators or dashboard behavior during your initial morning startup. If you notice that your dashboard screens take a second or two longer to boot up when you first hit the power button, or if the interior dome lights visibly dim for a brief flash before the ready light pops on, that is your vehicle dropping a massive hint. It means the baseline resting voltage of your auxiliary system has dropped below 12.2 volts overnight. The computer is warning you that the bucket is getting leaky. Don't ignore that warning sign. Catching a weak auxiliary battery during a routine check in your driveway is a 20-minute fix. Ignoring it until it bricks the vehicle at an airport parking lot is a nightmare. Now, in the spirit of absolute shop floor honesty, we have to look at the potential trade-offs, because every engineering decision has a counterweight. When you choose to sit parked in ready mode for extended periods, your overall calculated fuel economy readout on the dashboard, your average miles per gallon, is going to take a temporary hit. Think about the math. The vehicle's trip computer calculates fuel economy by dividing the distance you travel by the volume of fuel consumed. If you are sitting completely stationary, your distance traveled is 0, but the engine is periodically burning a small amount of gas to charge the pack. The computer sees fuel being consumed with 0 miles achieved, so your average MPG display will steadily drop. Do not let this alarm you. It is a mathematical illusion on the dashboard screen, not a mechanical flaw. You aren't actually burning through excessive fuel. You're just using a minuscule fraction of a gallon as a highly efficient stationary generator to keep your mobile office, campsite, or relaxation space powered up. The tiny cost of that fuel is a drop in the ocean compared to the massive financial damage of replacing fried control modules or paying for emergency flatbed towing. At the end of the day, the choice is entirely yours. You can keep driving the way the dealerships want you to drive, blindly trusting that every button on your dashboard is foolproof, running down your power reserves in accessory mode, and treating your car like a regular old machine from the 1990s until the day it leaves you stranded and hands you a 4-digit repair bill. Or you can take control. You can use the insider knowledge you learned today to outsmart the factory programming, protect your electrical grid, and make the advanced engineering inside your vehicle work directly for your wallet. You have the data, you understand the physics of the system, and you know exactly how to handle the machine. Stop letting the system dictate how long your components last. Step up, implement the ready mode fix. Every single time you park to wait, keep those cooling vents clear, and drive with the confidence of someone who actually knows exactly what is happening under the hood. You've got the tools and the truth. Now go out there and use them.